Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news, transfers and of course matches. And no, you can rub your eyes, but we have definitely just kept a clean sheet away from home as Arsenal draw 0-0 away at Everton. It wasn't the best game in the world, it's probably fair to say, but it was a result, getting a draw there, considering the team that we played, and we're going to go into that into some detail and get some of your comments as well. But if you can ask me if I'm happy with that result, I am happy with that result. As a 0-0 scoreline away at Everton with that team, whilst, yes, it wasn't the best, I'm happy to take a draw there 100%, considering this is an Everton side that have just beaten Chelsea, took points away from Manchester United at Old Trafford. I thought, actually, yes, we can take a point there considering the situation we're in. And now that Arteta can get his hands on this team fully, he can start making the necessary changes that need to be made. If anything, Everton are rather lucky that they've played us in this moment and don't have to face an Arteta side until the second half of the season. Let's get some of your comments before we go into breaking down the individual parts of the game. Robert says, "Where are you, Santa?" Rodney says, "First half terrible, second half not bad. Overall 6 out of 10 performance. Lots to build on, though." I definitely think that's what we're talking about. And Robert says, "Nice one, Rod. We can all go home now." And yes, we can. Thank you, Rod. Appreciate that. You should run your own podcast. Anonymous says, "Boring." Ty says, "We can actually play out from the back." Yes, we can actually do that. And we did that to some extent today. Akene, probably the only man on earth, says that he enjoyed the game today. Wow. Fair play to you, mate. If you enjoyed that, you will enjoy any game of football that you will ever watch. Ben Parfitt says, "Clean sheet. FC is back, Tom." Yes, it certainly is. Finally getting that clean sheet. Dixie says, "Boring game." Neil Thompson reckons that we should play Lacazette at number 10. Zlatko says, "If Real Madrid are offering Jovic and Ceballos 30 million for Aubameyang, got to take it." That's what he thinks. That's what he thinks. Beast Titan, I've just missed your comment. Here we go. People saying Alba is carrying the team, but in reality, our players keep passing the bloody ball to him. Why didn't Smith Rowe shoot? Yeah, that was a big moment in the game. Let's talk about the actual game in itself then. So the lineup. The lineup was a sort of, you could see that Arteta has definitely had some form of influence on that. He wanted to see the youth. He said about youth in the press conference. He talked about youth and how it might impact his decision-making. And seeing sort of Smith Rowe get his first Premier League start was very telling. Seeing Maitland-Niles at right back and Saka at left back was not surprising. We're extremely weak, but you have to say that the defence did okay. There were a couple of errors in that game for sure, and you're always going to get that. David Luiz was very lucky. I don't know how. Did he even get a yellow card at all? I don't know if he did, but he definitely should have done. But he had a couple of things that went a little bit wrong for him. But overall, I'm quite happy defensively with how we dealt with that. And that's really, really good to see that before Arteta's even got his hands on this team, that there is magically some defensive potential to get out of this side. Callum Chambers got man of the match and was excellent all game, besides that little rash challenge where he lost the ball near the end of the game and gave away that free kick. Other than that, really, really good performance from Callum Chambers. Saka had to do a really difficult job on that side. Had to deal with Richarlison, had to deal with Calvert-Lewin, had to deal with some other players of like Sidibe running up and down that side. So fair play to Saka. He was on a yellow card for a lot of the game as well and still managed to cope with that. I was quite concerned when he got that yellow for kicking the ball away because he had to deal with a lot of the game and still ended up not getting sent off, which for a guy of his inexperience playing out of position, fair play to the kid on that one. Then you look at the midfield pivot of Torreira and Xhaka, and that's probably the best that they've played so far this season, Xhaka and Torreira. They played really, really well. Xhaka particularly, I mean, we criticise him a lot, and you have to, because of certain things that he's done. But when he does good things, you've got to turn around and say fair play to the Swiss international. He did really well. The passing, getting out wide was invaluable. We desperately needed that in the side. And if he is off in January, then he's off in January, fair enough. Then we need to replace him with someone that can definitely pass the ball as well as he can. Moving into the attacking line, Smith Rowe, Nelson and Gabriel Martinelli, a very, very inexperienced and young front line, in behind the experienced captain of Aubameyang, who I'll come on to in a second. But those front three, Martinelli full of energy. Emil Smith-Rowe, I thought, was unlucky. I thought he struggled and was sometimes just trying to play it a little bit safer. Maybe could have taken a few more risks. Nelson looked confident on the ball. There was an opportunity in the first half where he ran into the box and was using his skills and his trickery, but he just doesn't seem to have that end product right now. I'm not sure if that's down to confidence, but hopefully with Arteta's pedigree as someone who's working really well with wingers, maybe he can turn Nelson's fortunes around. And then you got the striker, Aubameyang. Now, for me, Aubameyang had a difficult game, a really difficult game. And I said in a tweet saying that he looked quite disinterested. Now, I want to caveat something because, of course, for those of you that listened or watched the show a couple of days ago, I did sort of a ranty type video about how we need to get behind the team and the coach and the managers and just support them no matter what your opinion is. Now, some people jump on that and think that ultimately means that I am now completely unable to make any criticism of any player. That is a difference. There is a difference between backing your players and your team 100%, which I do every single game, and then being critical. So when I tweeted out saying that Aubameyang looked disinterested, that's not me not backing Aubameyang. That's me saying that he needs to buck his ideas up, and I'm desperate for him to turn things around and show us what he's capable of, because he is one of the better players, easily one of the better players in our team, and we know that what he's capable of doing, but he just wasn't doing it. There's examples against, say, remember the Crystal Palace game last year when we lost, I believe it was 3-2, Ozil scored that shot where he hit into the ground. But Aubameyang scored a goal where he picked the ball up on the right-hand side near the touchline and drove at the Crystal Palace defence. And we just don't see him do that as much anymore. He's always seemingly waiting and waiting and waiting for an opportunity that's never really going to come. And that is a big weakness of us at the moment, is that whilst we're not creating those chances, there's a lot of players on the pitch that aren't taking responsibility and are not driving us forwards. And we always look at this side thinking that the front line is probably the safest bet for our team, and it's the defence and the midfield where we need to work. But today, the defence was solid. The midfield pivot of Torreira and Xhaka was good, but it was the attacking side of the midfield and the front line which actually struggled to create the chances necessary to get anything from this game besides just a single point and a 0-0 away draw. And that's concerning, but fingers crossed, we should be able to see Arteta get something from this side. So what did you ultimately think of our defence and our front line? Let's get some more of your comments. Beast Titan says he can't carry the ball forward, Alba. Tap in, Merchant. Brian says the defenders plus Xhaka and Torreira did really well. Ben Parfit says, unpopular opinion, I'm glad Pepe got a rest today for the festive fixtures. Yeah, I didn't consider that, but we will talk about Pepe in a second. Matthew Hudson says amazing would mean that he scored a goal and won us a match. He was fair. In regards to, I'm not sure who we're talking about. If that was Alba, then that's what he's capable of. He can do those things, but strikers can do more than just score goals, and the best strikers in the world do a lot more than just that, and that's what we desperately need in this side. Neil Thompson says, I think Alba wants to leave. I said he looked disinterested. I don't get the feeling he wants to be there. Barbosa says, how on earth did Pepe not come on? Okay, let's talk about the Pepe thing. Ben says that he was being rested for the festive fixtures, which is a completely fair assumption. We've got another game on Thursday, which is Boxing Day, against Bournemouth away from home, and you think that Pepe might be getting in the starting lineup for that. And then we've got a big game against Chelsea on the 29th, of which I'm going to be there, and I can't wait to see Arteta's first home game of his reign. But in terms of Pepe individually, he had a really poor game against Man City. He didn't put the effort in. He didn't try. He didn't track back. He didn't cover his own mistakes. And I'm not surprised that he got benched for this game. I'm really not. And I think that Arteta is going to instill some sort of vigour and commitment and tell Pepe that he needs to work defensively, not only in a forward way, but also needs to be tracking back and helping out Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who will ultimately be that right back. Because when you want a winger, they need to be up and down that wing constantly, all game, not only doing what they do best in an attacking sense. And Pepe doesn't really give that. Now, the counter argument to that is that we were 0-0. We were 20 minutes to go. He should have brought him on. I would agree with that. I think that Pepe could have been a real asset. I think that bringing off Nelson for Pepe and bringing off Alba for Lacazette was a fair way of doing it. I still don't get the Willock experiment at the moment. I think that Willock is really struggling right now with form, and I think that there's opportunities for other players maybe to be getting a few more minutes. And you could argue that, yes, Emil Smith-Rowe got that today and didn't really take it, but the Willock thing, I still need to be convinced a bit more that Willock is going to be that guy for us in the future. What do you think about Pepe? Was Freddie wrong not to bring him on? Do you actually agree with Ben and think he's actually resting him rather quite rightly, or actually it's a rather of a consequence of the game against Manchester City? Omar says Pepe was poor against City. I can understand why he didn't come on. Beast Titan says, remember Leroy Sané have the same problems with defending like Pepe, and gradually we've seen Sané sort of be phased out. I know he's injured, but there were links with Bayern Munich in the summer before he got that injury, and maybe that's because of the commitment levels. Akene says, I've always said this, Alba ball control is poor, pass is poor, no dribbling. He is not really as good as we think that he is. Ayinka says that our midfield is finished. Defence was finished last year. Richard Cannon says the entire squad needs a shake-up. Forget the talent and skill and commitment and attitude is shocking. We've got some bad apples in this team that need to be sold on, and I'm sure we will see some shake-up in the squad very, very soon. Richard Cannon also adds to that, saying that Alba had no service. This is the other side of things, that Alba doesn't have any service, but we've not been a side to create a ton of chances for Aubameyang, and he needs to take more of an earnest on the situation, take more responsibility, get the ball, drive this team. He is the captain after all, and he needs to be more communicative with his team and more of a protagonist in this side, and he just hasn't quite been that. Ben says, I'd like to say that he was rested because of the West Ham and City game, but I can see why he would be benched after that City game too. Omar says that Alba looks totally disinterested. Af says Alba out. Sailor V says PEOE should have brought on for Nelson on 60 million. Oh, sorry, Pepe. PEOE. Oh, it's been a long day that I can't even interpret some mistakes. I'm usually pretty good at picking these up. Pepe should have brought on for Nelson on 60 minutes. Dark Druid says our midfield can't get us up the pitch. It's dead. Jermaine says we need Ceballos back in. Laka is better in games like this, and we need a ball carrier. Master says major surgery needed with the backroom staff at London Colney, for example, need to nab the nutritionist at Man City. I mean, the shake-up is going on. It looks like we're getting Iñaki Kana from Brentford. It looks like Steve Round is also coming. Who's had experience with the England setup. He's had experience at Manchester United. It looks like he's going to have a strong sort of backroom staff around him, as well as Freddie Ljungberg. Per Mertesacker can get back to doing what he was doing best with the youth academy. Don't want to see Per Mertesacker in the backroom staff. He's doing a really, really good job with the youth setup, and he needs to continue that as his main focus. Maybe in the future, but right now he needs to keep that focus with the youth team. And Arteta needs that backing. He needs that support behind him, and hopefully in that game against Bournemouth, we'll see the team come together. We'll see them have a week, just under a week or so of support. And in that moment, we will see the best of our Arsenal side under Arteta. NGA says Freddie ruined the day with his selection and substitutes. I don't think this can be on Freddie, to be honest. I really don't think it can. I think that there was a big influence from Arteta on this side today, and I think that makes a lot of sense as to why maybe we didn't see Pepe, maybe didn't see Alba stay on and Laka come on for him, and maybe that's why Emile Smith-Rowe started. Ashwin says, who's going to be Arteta's assistant? We don't know yet. We don't know who his main assistant. Maybe it is Steve Round that is going to be the main guy, but I think there are still some people to put together. Freddie Ljungberg could still be the assistant manager. Who knows? Richard says we need a ball carrier in central midfield. We've never replaced Santi. Our transition is slow. And, we already have one of those in Dani Ceballos, who's going to come back from injury very, very soon. And I'm looking forward to Ceballos getting back on that pitch and doing what he does best. Zamir says, Gundit based on the run of form we have and state of our club, I'll take a clean sheet away from home right now. What does Gundit mean? Gundit based? I don't know. I just think maybe it means good result based on a run of form. I think that's fair enough. I think that definitely in terms of where we're at, in terms of the run we've been on, 15 games without a clean sheet, taking this as a 0-0 away at Everton is probably a good result. Liam Goss says, Tom, I don't know how you read some of these comments. I'm sorry. Not everyone's clueless. People just have different opinions, Liam. I just think that when it comes down to looking at the Arsenal, there's a lot of different views about how things. A lot of people have a lot of affiliation towards certain players, towards certain coaches and teams, and that's down to them. But ultimately, I respect all the opinions that come up on here, and I'm happy to read plenty of them out as long as they're respectful. and talk about them. So that's fair enough. Joseph says Arteta didn't look so happy, and what can you blame him, Joseph? Can you blame him for not looking too happy? I don't think you particularly can blame him. If he was up in the stands watching that game, I think if you're Ancelotti, you've got a bigger job right now. You look at that Everton side; it was bereft of any sort of quality and creativity, finishing ability. The passing was off. Ancelotti has got a huge job on him to turn that Everton side around, just as Arteta's got a huge job too. But I think that Arteta, coming into this side, is going to know exactly what needs doing. And I'm really excited to see what that means for this side. I'm really excited to see sort of when we think about where we go with this side and what type of football we want to play and the people that need to be changed. I think Arteta knows that there is stuff to do, and I think he knows what needs to be done. Richard says, I'm glad Freddie played the kids. It was nice to see a majority of our starting 11 play with a bit of heart and desire. When I see Ozil and Pepe walking in a defensive phase, it upsets me. And it upsets me too, Richard. It really does. Vincenzo says, Everton battered Chelsea, so we should be pleased with a 0-0. I 100% agree with you there. Aya says, let's be honest, these young players are far from finished product, bar Martinelli. But even Martinelli's not the finished product. He is far from being the finished product. So in that sense, I don't think that we can be too concerned about what we saw today. Akshay, says, sell Ozil, Alba, Xhaka, Luis, Socrates in January and bring in a quality centre-back and CDM, Decore and Dunk. Yeah, I mean, I would take those two in a heartbeat. Whether we can get business done in January is going to be completely down to us being able to sell players on. There isn't going to be funds. We know that. We are going to need to move some players on. We talked last time, would you take Jovic and Sabas on a permanent for Alba and 30 million? I mean, personally, yes, I probably would at this stage. I think we need to bring in players that want to be here. We need to bring in players that are going to do a job for us, and any extra funds as well to fund any other areas of the pitch is going to be key and important. Joseph says, at one point, Arteta was shaking. He had a real grim face as well. Yeah, I think that you would be shaking if you saw some of the things going on the pitch. Hendon Guna says, now for Arteta to get to work, and to be fair, the players will actually enjoy working with a manager that has a clear plan. And for those that don't, they know where the door is, 100%, and probably a really, really good place to finish off today's show. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Only a short one today. As you can see, I'm back next to the conservatory where I usually do things because I don't have BT Sport at my new house. So I have to go and basically use the rents BT Sport because I'm cheap like that. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening. Plenty of you guys will be watching plenty of the football, I'm sure. But I think Arsenal have got a decent result to set off the Arteta sort of era. But until then, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Please do go check out as well. This morning, I uploaded the managerial tactical breakdown of Mikel Arteta with Sam Lee from The Athletic. I will leave that in the description as well as a link after this is uploaded. So those that are watching on playback, you can go and click that now. But please do go check that out. It's a really, really good and fascinating watch to find out all the stuff that's going on with Arteta and why you should be excited, and about what the things that he's done in terms of defensive and offensively at Man City. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.